Hello everybody, welcome back to another solo CM. This time we're going to be decked out in our max gear and we're going for a pretty speedy time. Now keep in mind speed is all relative, right? Depending on your gear and your experience in the raid, and for me personally, I'm the perfect example that you can do this raid over 1,000 times, but if you don't do things a certain way, if you don't practice things out of your comfort zone, it doesn't mean that you're going to be good in speedrunning in particular, because once you start speedrunning, you have to be going out of your way to do special tech, really, or changing up your gear setup ever so slightly. The example here is that I have 2 brews in my inventory, and obviously I have the P-neck, the Phoenix necklace, and the locator orb so that we can do the Kirby tightrope skip. We'll get into that a little bit later, but let's just go back to talking about the 2 brews. Typically in a solo CM, I don't bring any potions in at all. I pre-pot a Divine Super Combat along with an Anti-Venom, and that's about it. But in this speedrun attempt here, we bring in 2 brews because we're going to be no prepping. Now 2 brews is honestly overkill. I think very experienced speedrunners actually bring in no brews at all. And obviously, I'm an Ironman, but if I was a main, I'd probably be bringing in purple sweets, although those things are very expensive. So as a less experienced speedrunner here, I opted to bring 2 brews, and I did drop a few switches. I think right here, I opted to not bring Zerai Vambraces. Now, keep in mind, I didn't actually do too much research as to what was meta at this point in time. I did understand that at one point in time, somebody did drop Zerite Vambraces in their setup in favor of more inventory space, just for other things. So actually that leads me to the next point. Typically where my Zerite Vambraces are, I have the Zamorak Godsword. This is something I typically don't bring into my runs either, as chopping the tree is just more consistent in a money run. And I bring this up every time, but I'll just rehash it once again for people that aren't aware. The reason I have done so many solo CMs, well over 1,000 at this point, is that it took me 1,104 KC, along with like 300, 400 regulars, primarily solos, in order for me to get my twisted bow. So yeah, that took a while to say the least. And obviously during that grind, I always prioritize just safe, consistent runs. And using the Zamorak Godsword is definitely not safe and consistent because, well, if it misses, it's an absolute tragedy. You end up going through all your brews, and sometimes you just never know how much damage Muttadile is going to do. So let's talk about the actual run so far. Tecton played out the exact same way, and Crab Room played out the exact same way. I don't think I really diverged from a typical run in that regard. Now, more experienced speedrunners might be watching this and being like, okay, yeah, you wasted a lot of time at Tecton with luring it away from the anvil and stuff like that. Those are things that I'm not looking to do just yet. I know those are time saves, but like I said, I'm just starting out speedrunning. I think at the time of this exact run, my PB is a 2829, 2830, somewhere around there. And spoiler alert, we're not going to be even breaking that PB, but this is just a pretty nice example of my first initial attempt at speedrunning and the things I was trying to figure out and whatnot. So here at Ice Demon, I guess this is where it diverges a little bit. I light 3 braziers instead of 2. In my normal money runs, I light 2 braziers, and obviously I try to chop as much kindling as possible. But the mindset here is I light 3 braziers. The first brazier, I get at least 24 kindling or more. Same thing with the second brazier, and then the third brazier, I get about 12 kindling, and I light them as soon as possible. And for Ice Demon, since I didn't bring Burning Claws in or any Demon Bane, with our current rune pouch setup, we do have the runes for Mark of Darkness and what is that spell called? Dark Demon Bane, I think. So it should do pretty good damage, I think. Now keep in mind, I'm post-commentary here, so retroactively, I have since picked up a few things. I've learned a few new things from this run, but again, perfect example of what it was like when I first started out. And I'm speaking as if I have a whole ton of experience now, but I really don't. I've really only done a couple of attempts, and I've only had a few successful attempts, honestly. I think during this specific run, during this time, I was actually struggling with the Kirby tightrope skip. Since then, I have gotten a little bit better. I often do it more times than not. It's actually not as difficult as you think, especially once you get comfortable with how you want to set your camera angle and where you want to place your P-neck and a piece of food like the brew. So heading into Shaman Room, again, not much is different. Typically in a money run though, I would try to just safe spot them just for a nice chill run, less effort. But here I'm making a effort to just run along the walls, don't make the Shaman jump, but also not miss any hits. I will note that typically I'm cheap and I bring amethyst arrows into my runs as well, but I have swapped to the dragon arrows, and it's not like I'm in short supply of them. I have 23.2k, and I do wonder, obviously Chambers of Xerix drops dragon arrows as one of the rewards here. I wonder if using dragon arrows and consistently doing this raid, if you end up profiting arrows or not. I'm actually not too sure. If anybody knows, do let me know. So our spec weapon of choice going through this raid is the ZCB, the Xeric crossbow, and that's something we always use. But in hindsight, I've since dropped the Xeric crossbow in my future runs. But for right now, I'm still rocking with it. But at the cost of no burning claws in favor of other items. For example, the 2 brews I brought in, this is mainly for Vanguards, because typically we'd be prepping and, you know, the first floor is honestly a 0 supply room, and you prep for the rest of the raid. But in a no prep, I had to bring in a couple of pieces of food, or 2 potions, 2 brews, to deal with Vanguards, and any leftover would be nice as well to heal up after the tightrope skip. So when we get to floor 3 at Guardians, Vasa, and floor 3 is where you just take so much damage. Floor 1's pretty comfortable. Floor 2 is not that bad, especially if you do the tightrope skip. And basically, we're relying on the raid's drops to sustain ourselves in terms of brews and restores. Vanguards is a very important place. Drops a ton of brews, tons of revits. And here at Vanguards, I wouldn't say I'm doing anything different. Summon my Thrall and just try to do as much damage as possible without resetting the Vanguards. I guess maybe in a speedrun, I do take a little bit more risk, and you know, sometimes in a situation like this, for example, actually that's a bad example, they just dug, but sometimes, you know, you can follow the ranger around step under, you tag the major, and that starts getting low, so you tag the melee, and then it gets kind of sus, because, you know, now you have 2 Vanguards attacking you. Sometimes it's a bad time. And, you know, in my experience so far, speed running solo CMs, Vanguard's room is definitely one of the pain points. Well, I would say the first pain point is getting a 1 anvil Tecton. These days, for the longest time now, Tecton at least guarantees your first hammer to land, but man, that second hammer really makes a difference, and I swear, I ran the DPS calc, it's like a 39-40% accuracy, but it certainly doesn't feel that way. Alright, heading into Thieving Room. This room's not too exciting. It is RNG for the most part, but what you do want to do is heading into Thieving Room, you want to make sure you have the inventory space to start picking up the grubs right away. And right around when you get 9 to 10 grubs, start depositing them into the trough there. And then you want to open about 3 chests or so, and just keep the... what is that thing? The scav? Keep the scav feeding constantly. That's the goal here. And while you're doing this, you want to make sure your inventory is nice and clean. You could see there very briefly earlier, I just dipped into the private storage. And we are going to, again, just to make sure we have the needed items. In this case, it's the pickaxe and the fender. And we are going to be pre-potting the stamina here and banking that again. In a normal run, I would just be very stingy and not even sip the stamina dose because it's honestly not needed. There's an energy well along the way to the next room, which is Vespula, but obviously stopping for an energy well is going to take some time. So here we opt to sip the stamina dose so that we don't have to pause to sip the energy well there. And because the extended stamina is so good, it's actually going to carry us not only through Vespula, but Tightrope, and then it's going to last until Guardians, and we're going to have a nice high run energy still for Vasa. So right here, heading into Vespula, I actually equip my range gear first. T-bow on rapid, so it's still 5 tick to reach the portal on that light blue mark tile there. And then I swap into the ZCB. Because the ZCB is shorter range, I believe it's like 8 tile, right? Or 9 tile. I actually can't open up with the ZCB unless I put it on long range. But then if you do that, you're losing out on a tick. So it's a very minor detail, but what I do is open up with a T-bow, swap into the ZCB to spec, and then fully switch into the mage gear. It's probably not the most optimal thing, but it's like a good mix of being a little mindful of the DPS, but also just making my switches easier. So here we go, Tightrope skip. So very conveniently, the Kirby skip, you want to Locator Orb down to 1 health and turn on Rapid Heal on the Vespula tile that's like right next to the grubs, like the one tile you use to actually do Vespula. So it's very convenient. And then as you turn on Rapid Heal, you make your way over to Tightrope, turn on Redemption, very important. There's been a few runs where I forgot to turn on Redemption because I was so focused on everything else. Make sure you have your inventory space available to pick up the keystone. As soon as you cross, get the EXP drop, you pick it up, you P-neck and brew. Now, if you guys want like a more in-depth explanation on this, because obviously I just learned this, so I probably can't explain it very well, but obviously it's the Kirby skip for a reason, so go check out Kirby's video. But basically, it's important to know where your P-neck and brew is, and a more consistent thing is to actually brew first and then P-neck, because the way Kirby explained it, you can actually kind of get punished for being too quick, funny enough. But anyways, I digress. I'm not going to go too much into it, as I probably can't explain it to the level and depth that Kirby could. But moving on to Guardians, as I spoke on earlier, our extended stamina is still going. In fact, there's 1 minute and 20 left. These bad boys are so OP, they're game-changing. But you know what? Going back to what I said in the beginning of the video, where I said, you know, I'm just starting out, so obviously I'm not very experienced. I think experienced speedrunners don't even bring a stamina pot in. They might use Vile Vigor or something. I'm not sure. That could be incorrect information, actually. But the point is, there's a lot of differences still between the setup I'm running here and the setup that, for example, the current world record is like 22.5 minutes or something crazy. And right here, I'm going to get like a 29 minute run. When it comes to the Guardians room, there's honestly not much you can do. It just comes down to RNG. I mean, the entire raid comes down to RNG in terms of speedrunning. That's the nature of the game. But Guardians especially so, because the only thing you can do is just make sure you don't miss hits. You're tick perfect attacking off a cooldown. That's about it. We're actually pretty hard on this second Guardian right now. A couple of max hits of 61. Yes, we are using the Altor. This is something I'm unsure about. There's been a lot of variation I've seen. Some people use the Torva helm over full oath plate, and then there's a discrepancy between the Bellator ring and the Altor as well. I think on paper, the Bellator ring is actually better in a lot of situations, with full oath plate especially, like for example at Tecton. But I think you want to wear the Altor ring. Again, this is at least my wow, I just fumbled my words. What a stutter. This is my wow, I can't speak. This is my understanding of why you want to use the Altor ring. There we go. I just had to slow down a little bit. For example, Guardians right there, our max hit was a 61. If we were to use a Bellator, we definitely lose out on a few max hits there. And we're going to lose out on hammer specs, which are very important at Tecton, at Ulm especially. So I think it's just a consistency thing for the hammers, and obviously with the increased max hits on literally every swing you do. I guess in a speed run, you're really just looking for the max hits, right? So let's talk about Vasa, as I stumbled over my words there for about a minute. We do utilize the Vasa teleport skip. For the longest time, I didn't do it, but once I learned it, it's honestly not too difficult to do. And anyways, if you do fail it, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it kind of is in the context of a speedrun, because you do lose out on quite a bit of time. But on a regular run, you can start practicing this Vasa teleport skip and not really get punished for it, honestly, because, well, if you get teleported, you get teleported. Just sip a brew afterwards. No big deal. So we get a 146 Vasa right there, which is actually not great at all. Not even one bit. That is really slow. And this goes back to me dropping the Zerai Van Braces. So my understanding, again, this is probably outdated information, but the Zerai Van Braces are actually kind of quote-unquote irrelevant. That's why it's one of the things that you could drop. But I swear I really felt it there at Vasa, because a 146 Vasa with the setup that we do have is just insanely bad. We should be shooting for like a 1 minute Vasa, I think. So in future runs, I do bring the Zerai Van Braces again, and I'll be explaining that and like the different setups when I do get around to those runs. But for this one, yeah, we just dropped the Zerai Van Braces in favor of holding the Zamorak Godsword, which, to be honest, we very easily could have made room for in other areas of our inventory management. But yeah, in hindsight, I don't know what I was thinking. So just like all solo CM runs, like even just the money ones, we typically don't bring a salve just due to the nature of inventory space. I mean, you could already see heading into the raid. For us, we had 2 inventory spaces available, but I purposely left those 2 inventory spaces so I could very easily pick up the overload and enhance. You could bring more items even, but that will require you to juggle the overload or enhance or whatever potion you might bring in while doing crab room, and that's a whole extra thing that I will eventually get around to doing, but for the level I'm at right now, it's not something I'm concerned with. And heading into Muttadile room, this is just going to be RNG, hoping our ZGS lands, and very unfortunately, our ZGS doesn't even land on the baby Dao. I think the accuracy is much, much higher on the baby Dao than the mama Dao, so it's especially surprising when it misses on the baby Dao. So after that spec, we do instantly surge pot. We're at 75 spec again, but we're not going to spec the baby Dao because we're going to need that 50 spec for the mama Dao. So I just opt to, well, I say opt, but there's no other choice. Basically, I just have to fight the Muttadile here as it regenerates like 3 times off of the tree. Again, very unfortunate, and oftentimes in those super speedy runs people do, this is the make or break part, and it just comes down to whether your ZGS lands or not. Okay, moving on to the mama Dao, doing a ton of damage to me. One more hit here and we get ready to ZGS. And very fortunately, that one does land, which is arguably more crucial because the mama Dao can do a truckload of damage to you. And obviously no prepping, our brew situation is not the most ideal, so we want to preserve those as much as we can. But heading into Ulm now, I think our brew situation is pretty comfortable. If I'm not mistaken, we left a couple of brews in the private storage, and we definitely left 1 revit in the private storage. We have 4 in our inventory right now in terms of brews, and 1 full revit. Typically in all my Ulms, I'm very comfortable bringing 5 brews and 2 revits. So as long as we have that, the Ulm is going to be just fine. Now, will it be? I don't know, because this is actually a little bit of an old recording from a few weeks ago, and I'm just now getting around to this, so we'll find out. Alright, so we do have 5 brews, 2 restores heading into Ulm, and when it comes to speedrunning or just trying to make a decent time in CMs in general, be it solos or teams, one of the important aspects is inventory and storage management. So you could see I was doing my best to quickly get everything I needed for Ulm. But when it comes to entering Ulm, maybe slow down a little bit. It's important to bring the items you actually need, like your Elder Maw, your Scythe, you know, Dragon Hunter Lance, depending on your setup. You definitely don't want to be missing those items. Alright, with all that being said, I'm going to end the commentary here. Let's get the Ulm fight to just play out. And do stay tuned though. I'm not going to spoil it. We do get an item, but what item will it be? You'll have to find out.